السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. 8:21. Okay. So, inshallah, today I'd like to start with the following question. How many people have lived in a prison for the last 10 years in our audience? Inshallah, nobody. How many people have lived in a prison for the last 5 years? Anybody? 2 years? 1 year? Alhamdulillah. But how many people in our audience have lived in a mental prison of their own making for the last week? How many people that have lived in that prison are seeking a way out? So I'd like for a minute for us to imagine, and I was thinking to myself, kind of like those Looney Tune cartoons when they take Bugs Bunny or someone, they stick him in a prison and they pull that door of cell bars, and then that character can't come out and they're knocking and they're saying, give me the keys, give me the keys. Very similarly, each of us has a mental prison that we have created ourselves. Either we've created it, or we've imagined it, or sadly, we don't have the keys or the knowledge or the tools to get out of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not ever created a problem, whether emotional, mental, or social, without providing us with the keys to open that problem and get ourselves out. Our job, our mission in life is to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to constantly seek those keys, because He's made it, provided us with them. Our jihad and our struggle is to find them. So, as we're speaking of Imam Hassan Al-Askari alayhi salam, something very important to remember of him is that he was not in a mental prison, much that we have these days of ourselves. He was in an actual physical prison, but he lived a very peaceful, happy inner life. Just to briefly give you some things historically about Imam Hassan Al-Askari, even though I'm not really a big fan of history myself. But I think it's important to briefly look at history, because a lot of the stories that happened in the past always repeat themselves. If you've noticed, it's the same kind of stories from long ago, and the shaitan tries to deviate the Muslims and the good followers of Allah and of the prophets and of the Imams, and then they try to work themselves out. And if you notice, our life today is really not that much different. We have lots of conflict, shaitan's always in our head, we're trying to get out of these problems that are all within our mind. These are prisons that we create or that exist within us. And they have no real physical bars. So during the time of, just really briefly, of Al-Imam Al-Hadi, alayhi salam, who's the father of Imam Al-Askari, he had the king of the time who was Al-Mutawakkil. He was the Abbasid king. And he did his best to try to harm and hurt Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam's father. Even though Al-Hadi alayhi salam, معظم أيام حياته كان مسبحا لله عابدا شاكرا. He spent most of his days worshiping Allah, thanking Allah, doing good deeds for Allah. And at the same time, Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam, he had many sons, and some of them were not very good Muslims. There was one who was Ja'far al-Kadhab, who was actually competing with Imam Al-Askari, and he wanted the imamat, and he wanted to be the leader. And by the same token, Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam had other siblings that were very supportive, very kind and loving, and believed in him. There was Al-Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam, there was Muhammad alayhi salam. They were all his brothers and supported him. Now, really briefly, even his mother, who was the wife of Imam Al-Hadi alayhi salam, her name was Salil. And if you translate Salil into English, it means detached, something taken away from something. And what she had taken away from her, Salil, Imam Al-Hadi was describing his wife, and he said, Salilun maslulatun min al-afati wal-ahat wal-arjasi wal-anjas وسيهب الله لها حجة على خلقه. He said the mother of Imam Al-Askari, she was purified and clean, and she had detached and taken away from her any filth. And so she was a pure mother for Imam Al-Askari. Excuse me. So one might ask themselves, okay, well, how is that important? What does that have to do with anything? I think as Muslims that are living in nowadays in 2015, it's important to remember that, alhamdulillah, if your mother is a good woman, always remember her virtues. What good qualities has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in her? How can you thank her? How can you be kind to her? And inshallah, when you grow up and get to the age of marriage, I know a lot of the audience is a little bit younger than that age, but as you're thinking and seeking and finishing up your education and looking for life partners, to make sure you're looking for a husband or a wife that are pure, that have good qualities, good livable qualities, good akhlaq, so that the children will also be pure, inshallah. Because many times, as young people, we get stuck, or you guys get stuck on the thought of my happiness. I want to be happy now with this person. But you have to think, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you and give you children. How is this person going to be a mother or a father to that child? Now, something else that I wanted to share was a really quick story about Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam. When he was little, he was playing with all these friends. And one time, Al-Bahlul came. And he saw all the little children playing and laughing. And Imam Al-Askari was crying. So he told him, why are you crying? Did they not give you a toy? That'd be a natural reaction any of us would have if, I'm a mother, and if I saw one of my children cry, I'd say, okay, who took your Legos? Let's go to, get it from them. But Imam Al-Askari had a very powerful response as a child. He said to him, فقال له البهلول قال له فلماذا he told him, is your toy missing? So he said to him, يا قليل العقل ما للعب خلقنا. He said, oh, you who have little wisdom, we weren't created to play. فقال له البهلول replied, فلماذا خلقنا? Then why were we created? So Imam Al-Askari replied to him, للعلم والعبادة. We were created to seek knowledge and to worship Allah. Seek knowledge and worship Allah. These 2 points are extremely important because seeking knowledge means that we're not in a state of mentally being stagnant. A lot of the times we're in a mental rut. We're doing the same thing over and over. And we're not really improving. We're not really growing in anything. As a Muslim, you should be strong in all endeavors, in all facets of your life. It shouldn't just be one little area. You should be the best Muslim, the best brother, the best sister, the best mother, the best child, the best friend, the best, even professionally, the best doctor, the best dentist. Your knowledge that you gain should be the best and for the best, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For His sake, He created you and He's going to hold you accountable. So it's important to take that responsibility in everything. There's nothing wrong with even being the cleanest, the nicest. Of course, everything with moderation, but you're kind of putting a goal for yourself to do the best you can in all areas. وَخُلِقْنَا لِلْعِبَادَةِ. We were created for worship. So Imam followed it up with an ayah from the Quran. He said, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خُلِقْنَا عَبَثًا عفوا أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تَرْجِعُونَ. Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam wanted to show Bahlul through the ayah and the Quran. He said, do you think that we were created by chance, just haphazardly? Or as many of you guys that are in college courses, Darwinism and how we just were amoebas and, developed arms and developed this massive cardiovascular system and massive, nervous system. And just by coincidence, this all came about and we're here to survive and the best fit survives and everyone else dies off. No, these complex highways and systems that live within us, Allah created it. And He didn't create it just, on a whim. It wasn't like, oh, I think I'll create this. No. Allah created it so that we can ponder and worship Him because we're accountable and to do good, to use your senses, all of them for good and for bettering life in every way, which is not an easy task because shaitan will be there, unfortunately, with us in every way, trying to stop us and play with our minds and emotions. So continuing with Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam, he was very well known for his ibadah, very well known for his salah, for his karam, In the middle of prison, he would go and help people. He would advise, people and help them and guide them. And no matter what the Abbasids did, they tried, all their kings, not to go into any more detail, but all their kings tried, immensely to send guards and, those people to the prison itself to try to get, to hurt the Imam and to torture him and to make him feel sad and miserable. So when I was reading this, the thing that came to my mind was, how many times have I been in a rut and I just feel really down and I'm not feeling well, and then I go help someone. Most of us, what we do when we feel down is we just kind of mope. We mope and mope and mope and feel self-pity and why me, and I don't deserve this, and I deserve a better life. Even if you see a goal or achievement that you want and someone else got it, if you're not in the right mood, Shaitan will go right in and say, so what do they have that I don't? Well, why'd they get this? What's the big deal? I could have gotten it, And he'll try to play on your emotions, and he knows your weaknesses. The Shaitan is very, very smart, but he's not smarter than us. But he knows your weakness. He knows your emotional little, how they say you're only as strong as your weakest link. He knows your weakest link, and he's going to go on it and harp on it and harp on it until he tries to break you. Your job and your mission in life is to, for Allah's sake, know your weakness and work on it and stay strong. Stay strong to the last breath, because at the last breath, he's going to come and say, you're dying, you're on your deathbed. Who says there's Allah? And he'll try to even get to you at that last second. So, inshallah, we take many, many lessons from his life. So as I said, Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam was in a physical prison. But in our lives, alhamdulillah, none of us are in a physical prison. We are all free to be in our homes, to go to school, to go to university, to go shopping, to go to the mall, to hang out with our friends, to eat, sleep, drink happily ever after. But the problem is that we are unable sometimes to reach mental freedom. We're in a mental prison of our own. So some of those things that I wanted to talk about, some of those prisons, inshallah, I will not take up too much of your time and cover as much as I can. But before I actually get into those prisons, there's a couple of things I'd like to emphasize. One thing is that all these mental prisons that we have and these mental ailments, please always keep in your mind that you always have the choice. You have the choice to respond in the positive, respond in the negative, or do nothing at all. So it is a very tricky thing that the Shaitan tries to play with our minds and say, a lot of people will say this, they'll do something haram or wrong, and then they'll say, oh, well, the Shaitan made me do it. No, the Shaitan didn't make you do it. He put the fire and the gasoline really close to each other, but you're the one that lit that fire. He's not the one making these choices, we are. And also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always gives us chances. He gives us many, many opportunities during the days, but we just have to kind of be very aware and look at things from a different perspective. So for example, if someone says to you, there's a bake sale and we're going to raise money for, this family or something. Do you want to come? Your mind will think, oh, I'm too tired, I'm too lazy, I don't feel like it, I haven't slept well, I don't want to. And you'll come up with all these excuses, but if you change your thought and think, no, this is an opportunity to get more hasanat, to help someone, to have Allah, be, happy with me and proud of me. Or for example, if your mom, because I see a lot of mothers in the audience, and they tell their child, can you please clean up your room? I really cannot take this. It's just such a mess. And the child will just roll their eyes, give a sigh, I don't want to, why do I have to? It's not like anyone's coming in. I'm old enough, I can do this on my own. But it's a missed chance, it's a missed opportunity for good deeds and good amal. Never forget the two angels sitting on your shoulders. A lot of times my children are younger, so I'll remind them and I'll say, remember there's an angel on the right side and he's writing all the good, and an angel on the left side and writing all your bad deeds. But somehow we get to like 14, 15, 16 and forget these are here, and we just kind of go about our life having a good time and forget that every moment of every day They have thick volume books and they're going at it, writing your every thought and every deed. So keep that in mind and change your perspective on things. So that messy room, okay, yeah, I don't feel like it, but I'm pretty sure Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give me double the good rewards if I get up, because one, I don't feel like it, and secondly, I'm going to make my mom happy. Make her happy. How many times has she made you happy when you were little? Millions of times, without even batting an eye. So that's the chance part of my speech. The third part is the change. We must make a change in our own internal prisons. Change is not easy, because sometimes half the battle is to know there's a problem. The other half is how do you change it? What's your tools? What are your skill sets? Never be afraid to reach out to an older parent, an older relative who's trustworthy, a friend, a good Muslim trusted friend, and say, this is my problem, what's my tool, and what's my skill set that I can solve this? No one is perfect. We all make mistakes. But the خَيْرُ الْخَطَّاءُونَ التَّوَّابُونَ, the best of those who make mistakes are the ones that ask forgiveness from Allah, versus I made a mistake and tough shenanigans for everybody. I don't care. Because that attitude is very easy and it's very prevalent in especially our society here. So jumping right in, inshallah, to the first bar that I feel is really, really big in that mental prison that we would like to help ourselves get out of. That first one is communication, speaking, talking, listening. A really big part of communication is being able to be a good listener, and not many of us are taught how to listen. Listening is a skill where you don't judge and you listen to the other person and try to understand what they're telling you, versus coming up with a quick rebuttal and kind of slamming them with something better or smarter or more witty to say. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَقُلْ لِعِبَادِي يَقُولُ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَنزَغُ بَيْنَهُمْ إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ كَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوًّا مُبِينًا. He says, say to my servants that they should only say those words that are the best, because shaitan will surely sow a state of conflict and disagreement between them. And shaitan to man is a plain enemy. So a lot of us, for example, we have this great relationship with our sister or with our friend or with our spouse or with our mom or dad or child, and then all of a sudden it just gets rattled. They say something mean, you slam them with something meaner, and the next thing you know, you're not talking to each other. So some of the things that we should all remember is that shaitan loves to stir up conflict and disagreement. He loves to twist things and make you see them from a really narrow tunnel vision, selfish, upset view. And what happens is that if we start to use something called blame, we get ourselves and the opposite person that we love in a lot of trouble. So what is blame? Well, blame is basically when you dump all responsibility on the other person. You get into an argument and you go, well, it's your fault anyway. For example, let's say someone walks by and the dishes have been sitting in the sink. So one friend tells the other, or one sister or mother or whoever, they say to the other person, what's this? The dishes have been sitting here, they're stinking up the whole house. Then the other person blames the first. Really? Well, who ate in those dishes? Do you think I ate in those 1,000 dishes? I had one right here. You ate in all the others. What does the other person say? Oh, really? I'm the one that ate all this? Well, you're the one that's not cooking very nicely. Oh, really? I'm the one not cooking? You're not grocery shopping properly. Boom, 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 boom. And just they're going at it. Or, for example, let's say two sisters or two brothers. Excuse me, sister number one says to sister number two, didn't I lend you my sweater with the matching hijab? Is this how I lent it to you? Is this what it looks like? This is why I never lent my siblings anything, but don't tell. I feel so bad for them. Some of the sisters are laughing. They can recognize. And then the other sister goes, oh yeah, well, it's in a better condition than when you lent me the other thing, and look what you did to my clothes, damaged it double. And then the first one goes, oh yeah? And the next thing, they're not talking to each other for a week over what? $12.99 from H&M? Like, really? Yeah, I mean, like, really, what's the value? Or brothers, let's get into what you guys maybe talk about. I don't know, guys don't do so much conflict, but something that may happen. Bro, I lent you my shoes. What's this? There's a hole in this thing now, or I gave you my basketball and now it looks like a little tennis ball. What'd you do to it? I mean, there's tons of things, and then you're going at it. And guys are all looking at me like, no, we don't talk like that. But I'm sure there's conflicts that happen between the boys. My boys, I have 3 boys. What do they usually fight about? Mine are still younger, so it's more like, where's my Legos? You took it, Mommy, you took my Lego or my yo-yo. And then they start bickering, and then they are angry or upset. Okay, so that's just children, but it gets worse as you get older. So the blame. Shaitan will use that card to his advantage like no other. One person blames, the other person blames. Next thing you know, you're both mad. Weeks go by and you don't remember why you were mad, but you remember you should be mad and you have to stay mad at that person. And this happens to everybody. So the first level is blame. The second level, what happens is that both people are angry and they freeze. They emotionally freeze up against each other. And when they freeze, next thing you know, they're enemies. And I want you guys to really pay attention to this because it happens in families all the time. As Muslims, we want strong, strong, strong family ties. Sisters, brothers, mom, dad, husband, wife, children, cousins. Everyone needs to be a really strong knit fabric. And Shaitan will get in there like a little worm and just eat at that fabric. What does he do? He goes, okay, instead of these 2 Muslims uniting and advising and helping and loving each other, let me pin them against each other and now they hate each other and forget about me. And let them, do the dirty work and I'm sitting there just watching. And indeed, that's what he does. So first thing not to do is definitely do not blame. That gets nowhere. If you wipe as we say, if you take the other person's face and wipe the floor with it and you think you're fabulous, you really didn't win that conversation. You just one-upped them, but you didn't help them as your Muslim fellow human being. So one thing that we can do and that we should do is to lighten the mood. Sometimes when 2 people are in conflict, one great tool and one great solution is to use sarcasm and to lighten the mood and just crack a joke or be a little funny to try to kind of lighten things up. Another really great tool that we can use is to touch each other, especially if, like the sisters with their sisters and the brothers with their brothers. Touch is very powerful. And if you say to the person, I didn't mean to say that, and you put your hand on their elbow or on their forearm or their shoulder, it takes that person from being an object that you despise and don't like into a real, tangible, flesh and blood human being. It diffuses your emotions. So applying some of the Quranic rules of communication, I'm going to read you a really quick list of things that you should not say, and I won't pick on anyone that said this or can identify with this, because I'm sure we all can. First thing, something to not say when you're kind of going at it and angry with each other. I've had enough of this. Okay, you never listen to me. I keep talking to myself and I'm just, blowing out steam. Number 3, you always let me down. I can't trust you for a thing. How many times have we said that to each other? How many times do I have to repeat this? Go clean your room. Go do this. Go do that. How many times? Didn't we agree on this before? I want you guys to take a quick analysis of how you feel when I'm saying these. So pretend like I'm your older sister or mom or sibling, and I'm saying this to you, and how do you feel when I'm going at it and talking this way to you guys? I can't take it anymore. I just can't take you. Enough is enough. How many times are we going to go through this? Be quiet and mind your own business. Whatever. Okay, that whatever gets under my skin like no other. I'm the boss around here. Who do you think you are? Or just flat out, who do you think you are? Okay? We've all said this. The feeling that it stirs within us is this really icky, I'm worthless, I'm worth nothing feeling. And that's not what you want to do to your fellow Muslim or fellow human being. That's not what all the prophets were sent down. Do you think any of the prophets or our holy imams went to the people and said, how many times do I have to teach you how to pray? Really? Or, imagine if they said, this is not how you do wudu. What are you doing? What a mess. They didn't say stuff like that. Or if they said, you don't listen to me, why should I tell you what the 5 pillars of Islam are? Oh my God. Or if they just said, be quiet. I mean, they were all gentle and kind and supportive and helpful and uplifted that person. Our natural knee-jerk reaction is to knock that person down and show them who's boss, but we have to fight against that, tendency. So what are some things that we can say and we can implement? Number 1, when you are hurting and something is bothering you, or let's say, for example, you're on the receiving end and you messed up, you can say, what can I do to help? Or, how can I help? You see how different that is? Or, when is a good time to talk about this subject? Or, okay, I think we need to discuss this. This is really upsetting me. Or, I'm concerned about the way things are going with this project or this whatever. Or, I'm really upset right now. I can't talk about this. I need a break. I need to think about this. And lastly, I really care about you, but I really can't talk about this right now. Notice in this second list, all the sentences started with I. I feel, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm concerned, I want to help, I want to do something. You're involving yourself. You're not attacking the other person going, you are terrible, you don't know anything, I'm the one that knows it. God, Mom, what is this? And it's none of that. It's how can I help? I feel bad. What can I do? I'm feeling upset. Get away. It's using the I. So the person in front of you isn't defensive anymore, and shaitan doesn't have a chance to slip between the conversation and then pin the two of you against each other to fight and bicker. So, some people express themselves very well in words. Unfortunately, other people do not. And one really quick thing that I wanted to mention, if you are not very verbally, communicative and you're slightly verbally challenged, is something you can do is write on a piece of paper how you feel and give it to that person. It could be a card, it could be a text, and nowadays, I'm really sorry. And I've done this before. I'll be very honest. About a week ago, I was extremely overwhelmed. Mashallah, I have 4 little children. I'm tired, sleepless, exhausted. It's the end of the week. I have, an hour, 2 hours of driving to their school every day. I had it. So I was speaking with a friend, and I kid you not, everything that was in my mind that I wanted to say came out the opposite. The opposite. I would say something like, oh, well, thank you for calling. It's about time. And I wanted to say, I'm so happy to hear your voice. Why did it come out that way? It's just like my brain was firing all these random negative thoughts and words. And I wanted to say, thank you for helping out. And it came out, is this all you can help out with? No, and I had this, I would say half an hour conversation, and it was just nonsense. And when it's nonsense, because at the end of the conversation, you're kicking yourself going, if I was the other person, I wouldn't want to listen to me. I don't know why I was sounding like that. So I kept thinking, shaitan is going to drag this out. It's going to make me and my friend get really upset for another 3 days, 5 days, week, month. And I thought, what? For the first time in a long time, maybe even in my life, I said, what? I'm not going to let shaitan beat me on this. So within 10 minutes, I went back to my friend and I said, and my friend was really hurt at this time, and she's like, I really don't want to talk to you right now. Rightfully so. I was, in the wrong. But I said to her, I just want to tell you one thing. I said, I don't know why I said those things, and I'm really sorry. And if I could, I'd take all of them back. I'm not excusing my behavior, but I really feel bad for what I said. And I said to her, it was opposite of everything I was feeling, but it was the end of the night. It really was. We were communicating at 10 or 11 at night. So I was wiped and tired, and I explained that. So sometimes you don't necessarily have to say, I'm sorry, because I know for some people, I don't have a problem saying it. If I'm sorry, I'm the first one to say, hey, I messed up. But I've learned in life there are people that it's hard to say, I'm sorry. So if you're one of those people, find a different way. Because talking and communicating is an art. It's a very smart way of speaking. And you can say sorry without saying it. I didn't mean to, or it came out this way. I don't want to do that again. I won't do it again. For your mom, your sibling, your friend, your spouse, anyone. So I really wanted to share those little tips and tricks. One more bar that is a mental prison that we kind of put for ourselves is conflict resolution. So how many people have been in a conflict in their life in the audience? That should be everyone raising their hands, right? We've all gotten into some conflict and misunderstanding. All right. So the thing with when you're trying to solve a problem with a person is to always remember, you know, the first thing that comes out of our mouth is that, well, you're not perfect. You hurt me too. But we often forget we're not perfect either. You know, who says that what came out of our mouth was right or was even fair? So a few quick tips about how to solve problems. Number one, control your anger. It's very, very easy to explode. Everyone can do it. 2 seconds and you're like, just ready to, you know, go at it. The harder part and the more rewarding part is to control yourself and just to say, wait, before my tongue and my thoughts go at lightning speed and I start blurting out things I can't take back, let me turn around and walk the other way. And believe it or not, I told my 5.5-year-old that same thing about 2 weeks ago. He kept butting heads with many of the boys in the class because in his mind, he should have been the first in line. He wanted to be the first in this and that, and he would get into conflict. And so me and the teacher came up with something really simple, but even our beloved Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came up with this. He said, if you're angry and you're standing, sit. If you're seated, get lower. Ground yourself, because it's really hard to get angry at someone when you're sitting low. The higher up you are physically, the more mental signals are sent that you should be more aggressive and, you know, give it to them good. Show them who's what. So what we told him was exactly that. If you just feel like, if I open my mouth, I'm going to sock this person in their face. I'm going to do something that I'm going to lose my mind. Just close your lips, turn around and walk the other way. You don't even have to say a word. And then later explain, you know what? I couldn't control myself. It's not that I couldn't control this conversation. At that moment, shaitan knows that anger will blind you. Anger will so blind you. And all our imams were sent, and all our prophets were sent so that we would have crystal clear thinking when we communicate and not be in a state of complete blindness. Because even one of the wives of the guardsman that was trying to torture Imam Hassan Al-Askari, alayhi salam, one of the wives, she was a good mu'mina, and she turned to her husband and she said, wayhak. She said, how dare you? Do you know what will happen to you if you torture Imam Al-Askari? Do you know what how Allah's wrath is going to come down on you? How many times have we heard our moms or brothers or siblings or friends say, man, this is a bad idea. Allah's going to get you for this. You got to stay away from this situation. No, don't think like this. And anger will just blind us, and you'll be thinking, no, I'm in the right. I need to do this. I need to show them that they were wrong, and you know, drag it out a little and ruin their reputation slightly, and you know, get at them. And shaitan will just keep pushing, because he knows you're angry, and that emotion will blind you. So our Prophet ﷺ said, no, change your physical body state to change your mental state and how it's thinking. And they've even done research studies on this in the opposite. There was a really good researcher who, she said, if you're feeling down and you're not feeling very happy, look at how your body is. Most of the time your body's collapsed, your knees are kind of folded in on each other, and you're feeling gloomy. So what they did was they said, okay, if you sit up really straight and your posture is well, and if you do it for 60 seconds, only 2 minutes, they had some of the people actually put their hands on their hips in Superman style, like I can do it. All of a sudden, their mind felt happier and more alive and more vibrant. Well, the opposite is true. If you're down and you're upset and you're doing this, the way your body is how your mental thinking will be. So that's the first thing for when you're having a problem. Control your anger. Number 2, avoid the blaming attitude as we spoke. Number 3, take initiative. A lot of us, when there's a problem, they'll go, well, it's your fault. They want to put the blame on someone else. Well, you didn't do this. Well, you didn't do that. But our holy prophets and our holy imams said, no, you take the initiative. وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى جَنَّاتٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. سَارِعُوا. You be the one. You be the one to go fix the relationship, solve the problem. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the one to take the responsibility if you're not in the fault. It means that you're going to be the first one to build the bridge, to mend the relationship, to heal the other person and help them grow with you versus blaming them and knocking them down. So take the initiative. And again, I'll make it really simple because sometimes some of these words will get in the way. I told, again, my children, a couple of days ago, I said, they were both trying to speak at the same time. And I'm looking at them like, okay, this person wants to talk and that person wants to talk. Who do I listen to? So I thought to myself, okay, so I looked at them and said, which one of you wants more hasanat? The one that wants more good deeds and wants that angel to write more is the one that's going to let their sibling talk or let their sibling have a turn. And so immediately they both went, okay, you can talk. Go ahead. No, go ahead. And they were fighting out who to talk first. So we're not really that much different. We're a lot taller than children. But sometimes it's the same situation and the same issues that keep coming up. So you be the one that you want that angel to write more good deeds for you and go and do things, even if it's within the family. Sometimes we want to, guide everybody. And personally, I love myself da'wah. I love spreading Islam on a very grand scale. I enjoy it. But at the same time, now that I have my own family, I'm starting to think, you know what? All the imams started within, and the prophets within their own families, their own mom and dad and children and brothers. So even if you're having an issue with your sister, with your brother, with your dad, with your mom, you be the one to go say, Mom, I'm sorry. I don't know why we had that silly argument and we were both saying hurtful things to each other. And even if you weren't wrong, if you say sorry, Allah knows you're going to get so much more hasanat. And paradise is under your parents' feet, especially the mother. So you be the initiator. Go ahead, be the strong one, be the brave one. Start that conversation versus kind of waiting for it to happen. Number 4, forgive and forget. Thank you. Forgive and forget. So a lot of people that I've encountered recently in my adult life, for some reason these people didn't show up when I was a teenager in your ages. They waited till I was nice and tired and had children. But I've encountered some people that will just say, I'm not going to forgive her, period. Yeah, I can forget, but I'm not going to forgive her. Or I'm not going to forgive him for what he did to me. I have a big ego and he stepped on it. And I'm going to show him who's boss. And I just keep thinking to myself, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أَلَا تُحِبُّ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created you from head to toe, and you mess up every day in His right. Don't you always sit there going, Ya Allah, forgive me, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it again? Like, who are you in comparison to this person? The 5th thing also is that you should be patient. Allah says, إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. The people that have patience and sabr, they're the ones that are going to have the more ajr. And they are the ones that are going to be very happy on the Day of Judgment. One last thought I'd like to leave you with is visualization. Sometimes in the heat of the battle, the heat of the moment, you're very upset and blinded by your feelings. It's a good idea, and I'm going to just make this suggestion, that you imagine in front of you what you think Jannah would really look like. What you want when you get there and you look at it and you say, this is all the hard work I did in life. It's right here in front of me. And I also would like to recommend thinking about hellfire and thinking what that really looks like when you get there and you look at the people there and you say, Alhamdulillah, I'm not one of those. What did those people do to earn a seat in it? And by the same way, what did the people in Jannah do to earn their seat in it? And please, please refrain from saying, I don't want my seat in Jannah or not or anywhere. Because sometimes life will throw things at you And the shaitan will stir the pot, and you'll get to a point where you say, I don't want anything. I'm so fed up. At that moment, just say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I will revisit this topic or this issue or whatever is bothering me or hurting me later. But refrain from saying, I don't want that seat in Jannah, because sometimes we don't know what we're saying and we don't know the weight of it. So there's a lot more things that I had planned on sharing, but I have run out of time. Inshallah, everyone has benefited and taken some of the tools that I wanted to share with you guys for achieving and maintaining, inshallah, mental freedom and helping ourselves out of this mental prison, just as our beloved Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam did, even though he lived in a real and true prison for a good 7 years of his life. And he passed at the tender age of 29. So mashallah, all of you are in the prime of your youth, and inshallah you can take away these little tools. And thank you so much for listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa akhiru da'wana. And alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.